All right, for this video, I want to show you very briefly how to graph a sine function by hand. As an example, we're going to graph this particular sine function, y equals 3 times the sine of 2x minus pi minus 1. All right, so let's start by finding the midline of this function. The midline of a sine function is normally right on the x-axis at y equals 0. But that's going to be shifted up or down by this number, the number that we're adding or subtracting to the entire function. So here we're subtracting 1, so we're going to shift our midline from y equals 0 down to y equals negative 1. Next, we need to find our maximum. So we're going to start at our midline and we're going to go up by the value of our amplitude. The amplitude is given by this number, the number that we're multiplying our sine function by. So we're multiplying by 3, so we have an amplitude of 3. We're going up from negative 1 up 3 to a maximum of 2. For our minimum, we're going to start at our midline of y equals negative 1, and we're going to go down 3. That's going to give us a minimum of negative 4. Next, for our period, the period of a sine function is normally 2 pi. But if we have a coefficient here on our x, we need to divide that normal period by this coefficient. So 2 pi divided by 2, in this case, is going to give us a period of pi. Next, we need to find our phase shift. So the phase shift is this horizontal shift, and it's given by this number in here that we're adding or subtracting inside the parentheses. Remember with a horizontal shift that it's going to go the opposite direction of what we would expect. So if it's negative, we're going to go to the right. If it's positive, we're going to go to the left. Here, we're subtracting pi. Now, if there is a coefficient in front of this x, again, we have to divide by that number. So we're going to take the opposite of this value, which is pi, and divide by 2. So our phase shift is pi over 2. Now we're going to graph 5 points, and that's going to allow us to graph our sine function. The first we're going to graph our midline right there at y equals negative 1. Now the sine function always starts on the midline, and it normally starts right at 0, but remember we've shifted it to the right by pi over 2. So we're going to start right here on the midline at pi over 2. Now we're going to be back at the same point after 1 period, so we have to add pi radians to that. So after 1 period of pi, we're going to be back where we started, because remember a periodic function just keeps repeating itself. And now the sine function always crosses the midline halfway between the start and end of a period. So we're going to cross the midline there as well. Now halfway between these 2 points, we're going to reach our maximum of 2. So right there we're going to be at 2, and halfway between these 2 points, we're going to reach our minimum of negative 4. Now that we've got these 4 points, we can draw our sine curve just like that. And now remember, of course, that this is going to continue on to infinity in both directions. It's going to continue to oscillate like that. But with just those 5 points, we'll be able to graph the sine function and get the general idea of what it's going to do.